Welcome to Fantasy Sports Daily, powered by FantasyGuru.com. Monday through Friday at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 9 a.m. Pacific. Ray Flowers breaks it all down for you from a fantasy sports perspective. Good morning, everyone. Ray Flowers of FantasyGuru.com. Welcome to Fantasy Sports Daily. Yeah, we're here every day, Monday through Friday. We have about an hour each day. We have a lot of fun here on the show. We interact with the listeners. That's all of you, the followers, the believers, if you will. It's week 11 in the NFL season. It's a Thursday. We're talking to Tyler Buecher here in a little bit. I'm Ray Flowers. Twitter, X, Instagram, Blue Sky, Threads, all those places at the Ray Flowers. Obviously, I'm in Discord all the time, so if you got any questions, comments you want to leave, make sure you leave the comments in the right room. We're having a lot of that back and forth here recently. We got a bunch of rooms. We got a dynasty room, a trade room, and just an overall seasonal room, a waiver-wire room, a start-sit room. Make sure you're sending those questions to the right room so we can make sure to service you the best we can over at FantasyGuru.com. I'm here with you on the show at 12 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Fridays. On Wednesdays, I am not here because I'm over on SiriusXM, which is why I wasn't here yesterday. Jeff Mann's show starts an hour after this one from 2 to 5 p.m. Eastern, Elite Sports on SiriusXM Fantasy Sports Radio. So listen here for an hour, take an hour break, go over there for 3 hours. I'm not with you here. Justin Fensterman's here on Wednesdays because I'm over there with Jeff from 2 to 5. Also, Justin and Russell Clay, who will be on the show tomorrow on Friday, they do a Sunday night show where they recap everything, all the Sunday action for 3 hours, 6 to 9 p.m. Eastern on SiriusXM Fantasy Sports Radio. So check that out as well. What are we talking about today? We got a whole host of things to talk about today. First off, we're going to do some review of the waiver wire. 3 of the leagues I'm in, we've been doing this. Just a jumping off point to talk about some players. We'll then deal with some health scenarios. Lots of players dealing with health situations. See the list there. Stroud, Purdy, Dobbins, Irving. Not TreVeyon Henderson, but TreVeyon Henderson's gaining because of Stevenson. Ricky Pearsall, is he actually going to play this week? Garrett Wilson, Romeo, Dobbs, Darius, Slayton, Oronde, Gadsen, and Dalton Schultz. And then in about 25-ish minutes, about 12:30 Eastern Standard Time, halfway into the show, every day except for Mondays, we have one of our guests from FG on, and today it's Tyler Buecher. We'll talk Thursday Night Football with Tyler. We do that every week. He often has a free bet that he shares with everybody here. I'll also ask him about some storylines, just some of the players kind of that, it's like, who is Caleb Williams? Who is Bo Nix at this point? Like, what are these guys? Is Aaron Jones somebody we should be talking about more? What about Woody Marks, Tyrone, Tracy, Tez Johnson, Jerry Jeudy was huge last week. Is that going to continue? Jameson Williams has started to come around. We'll talk to Tyler about these guys and get his thoughts on all of them moving forward. Don't forget that it is also that time of year where we're giving discounts, folks. All in football package at fantasyguru.com, $99.99 the rest of the way. Yeah, the season's about halfway over, a little past the halfway point. We're giving you the whole coverage that we give you in the offseason for 17%. Getting a pretty good deal. You're getting 45% of the coverage for 17% of the cost. $99.99 the rest of the way. You get all of our football coverage, meaning college football and NFL, all of it for $99.99. You get all of the seasonal content, all the DFS content, all the betting content, all 3 zones, everything. So all the football stuff we do, you get it through the regular season. You get all the articles, the chat rooms that we were just talking about. There's different chat rooms for everything. The Discord rooms, they're a chat room for you old folks like me. Get access to all those, access to every article, access to every live stream, access to every podcast, access to every ranking system, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. $99.99. Send an email to support@fantasyguru.com. Support@fantasyguru.com. All right, let's get going here. Let's make my face a little bit bigger. Hey, there it goes, Ray Flowers. What are we talking about? Let's go player by player. Jameis Winston's obviously the quarterback of the Giants now. How long this will last is uncertain. Jackson Dart has had numerous concerns about head injuries, been checked many, many times this season already. I think it was 4 times officially he's been checked for a head injury. He's not going to play this week. We're going to get Jameis Winston as the starter. How much time is Jackson Dart going to miss? Unclear. He puts himself in harm's way. They design runs for him. He obviously runs as well, so he's in the open field a lot. So he's apt to get hit. And so he is clearly the franchise player at this point, along with Malik Neighbors, obviously, who's not out there because of the knee injury. They aren't going anywhere. They're not winning anything. Now, Kaka, the new coach, obviously wants to win games. So it's not like there's not an incentive here to get Jackson Dart back out on the field. but they can't rush this. He's too important to the franchise, right? And we have seen him be super successful in the young stage of his NFL career. So Jameis Winston's the guy now. We know who Winston is. He is a turnover machine. He's the guy that's going to challenge defenses. He's going to try to make things happen on almost every play. Now, the negative for him is if Malik Neighbors, we joked about this, if you remember, way back in the preseason 4 months ago. If Jameis Winston was quarterback, Malik Neighbors would be getting 15 targets a week. He'd be getting the Flacco, Jamar Chase work. Of course, Neighbors is out. Darius Slayton's really important to this offense, and he's very important to Jameis Winston. Right now, Darius Slayton is uncertain to play this week. He did not practice yesterday because of the hamstring injury he's dealing with. His loss would be significant. Even with him out there, this is just not a good receiving core. Wendell Robinson, I mean, maybe Wendell Robinson's getting 12 targets a week now. But the thing is, Robinson, as we've talked about a lot, he's 5'8", he's 170 pounds. You know, he's limited in what he can do on the football field, the routes he can run, that kind of a thing. So, you know, typically Jameis Winston wants a guy that can high point a football that he can chuck the ball to down the sidelines. That's just not Wendell Robinson. That is going to be Darius Slayton. Jalen Hyatt might make an appearance. Bo Collins, Gunnar Olszewski, I can't even say his name. So it's bad. So before you get really excited about Winston, and I know some people were getting, don't know how long he's going to start. He's not a start in a 1 QB league at all. In a 2 QB Superflex league, okay. But again, that's not a very high bar at this point in time, is it? It's really not. CJ Stroud is still experiencing issues with his noggin. This can happen, obviously, with concussions. Sometimes guys bounce back in 24 hours. Sometimes it takes a week, 2 weeks, 4 weeks, sometimes never. I mean, that's just the fact of it. It's a brain injury. He didn't practice yesterday. We're not only hearing he didn't practice, but he is still experiencing symptoms. He's not playing this week. It'd be a stunner if CJ Stroud is playing this week. That's unfortunate because it looked like he was finally starting to get his footing, right? Davis Mills stepped in last week, led the team to that late comeback victory. He'll be under center yet again this week. Mills is a kind of in that same Jameis Winston zone. He's fine. You know, and again, last week he had a rushing touchdown. He threw for 290 and 2. This week it's against Tennessee. The problem here is that Tennessee is terrible. They will put no pressure. They may not even move the football. They may not get 100 yards of offense. I'm exaggerating a little bit. But how many yards of offense are they going to get against the Texans? So they're going to put any pressure on the Texans offense at all this week. The Texans could probably score 10 points and win this game, right? 14 for sure. 20, oh my God. So the point being, can't expect Davis Mills to have a big game. The game flow and the matchup just doesn't suggest that he's somebody that's going to put up a big effort this week. It just doesn't. Brock Purdy, look, I'm not really sure what the Niners are doing. The Niners gave all this money, $250 million, whatever the hell it was, to Brock Purdy. And the fact of the matter is that Brock Purdy is a solid quarterback whose backup, Mac Jones, is playing very similar football. So there's no incentive for the Niners. It's not like the Niners have a flunky at quarterback here that's not doing anything. I mean, he's thrown for 250 and 2, and he's thrown for 330 yards, 300 yards. He's done a very solid replacement job. So the Niners have had no real impetus to push Purdy. Okay. Same time, he's their starting quarterback, and he's got the foot issue. It sounds like he's got a chance to play, legitimate chance to play this week. We shall see. We'll see. I mean, it sounds like they'll push him. And if he performs as well as he did in practice last week, he's got a chance to start this week. So it really does seem like he's got a chance to be active this week. That's really where we're at. By the way, I jumped right into this. Didn't even mention I got so excited I put up my second Christmas tree last night. There's all the ways to watch the show. You're obviously into it now, so you know, but maybe you don't know about the other avenues. You can watch us live on youtube.com/@ElitePlusNetwork. You can watch us live on facebook.com/FantasyGuruHQ. You can watch us live on Twitter X @FantasyGuruSite. All three of those places, you can watch us live or on demand, right? You can watch it. And if you're in any of those spots, you leave comments and questions that we can address through the show too. So that's really helpful. Secondly, you can always go to fantasyguru.com and go to the toolbar at the top of the page where it says Elite Plus. Just click on that. You'll find all the shows in the network, including this one. And then you can always type in Fantasy Sports Daily to your podcast network, wherever that might be, Spotify, Pandora, YouTube Music, Apple iTunes. Just type in Fantasy Sports Daily and you can find us there. J.K. Dobbins, let's check the news here. I was running around this morning. I didn't see anything official. Let's see. Official. Okay, I'm still not seeing anything. As of right now, the expectation is that Dobbins will not play this week for the Broncos. We have heard a report that has not been substantiated, that has not been verified, that Dobbins is potentially going to the injured list. So it seems like the issue that he is dealing with his foot might be a little bit significant. Again, we don't know at all. We don't even know for certain Dobbins isn't playing this week. No one's expecting him to play this week. And there's that lingering story about potentially him being out for 4 weeks. We just don't know at this point. RJ Harvey's owned in every league, so it doesn't matter. The only question becomes, how excited do we get about Harvey, right? Even if Dobbins is playing on a foot that's not at 100%, it's fair to think, Harvey's going to potentially get double-digit touches anyway. If Dobbins is out, it's RJ Harvey to the moon, right? So we'll continue to follow this storyline. Right now, we just don't know. If you have RJ Harvey, plan on starting him. I think that's the safe way to look at it, but we just don't know what's going on with Dobbins yet. It's just a messy spot. Next up, Bucky Irving. Bucky Irving, 2 days ago, Bucky Irving was in rehab mode, and it wasn't looking good this week. 1 day ago, yesterday, the reporting changed, and now he's at practice doing some things. So it's unclear if Bucky Irving is going to play this week. We'll talk waiver wires here in a few minutes. And, Sean Tucker's a player that, there's been some – Jeff Mance has talked him up because his role is looking like it's grown a little bit. He's certainly done a very effective job on the ground in comparison to Rachaad White, who we've talked about a lot. He's not a very good running back. But now there's a movement toward Bucky Irving potentially playing this week. So it's too early in the week. We don't know. Irving may not play this week. We have no idea. If Irving plays, he's the starter. If Irving is active, you're not starting White. You're not starting Tucker. If you are, you're in desperation mode. There's only 2 teams on bye this week. You shouldn't be on desperation mode. But those backup pieces, Tucker and White, are not usable if Bucky Irving is healthy. At least that's the way I would be playing it. Next up, TreVeyon Henderson. TreVeyon Henderson's fine. As I said earlier, let's not get nervous. We're going to have another week without Ramondre Stevenson. Now, the question for Henderson and what he's going to look like this week comes down to a couple of things. Most directly, it comes down to the health of his teammate, Mr. Jennings. Terrell Jennings, who barely played. I think he played like 5 snaps last week because of a knee injury. Stevenson's out. We obviously know Antonio Gibson is out. So the backup running back is Terrell Jennings, and he only played 5 snaps last week with a knee injury. So it's quite possible that we see another significant workload for TreVeyon Henderson. We'll have to follow the injury report here on Jennings. It's a big key whether or not we look at Henderson and think 20 touches and running back 15 or 15 touches and running back 20. Right, so there's a little difference there, but obviously we're firing up TreVeyon Henderson this week. It's just the right way to play it when you're looking at the backfield situation with the Patriots. One note there, they're playing the Jets. What's the Jets offense going to look like? It's very likely the Patriots probably get out to a significant lead here and maybe lean on that running attack in the second half, which is obviously good news for Henderson. I see a question here from Aaron. TreVeyon Henderson or Diggs in a non-PPR could play both, but will be sitting on AJ Brown. I can't talk Antonio Brown. Antonio Brown, by the way, did you see that news? For those of you that missed it, Antonio Brown has been arrested. He's been arraigned for attempted murder. He's claiming he didn't do it. I think it's 2nd degree or something like that. Maybe it's 3rd degree, but he's been released with an ankle bracelet, and he's going to jail. So if you haven't been following that storyline. In terms of this question here, I think that TreVeyon Henderson, as I just said, I think TreVeyon Henderson, it's very fair to look at him as a top 20 running back this week. When I talk about a top 20 running back, it's almost impossible for me to bench that guy, especially for Diggs. Diggs is the number 1 receiver on this team. Kayshon Boutte is out this week for the Patriots, so we will see probably a little bit more of Diggs, but even so, last week it was the 10 targets to Mac Hollins, right? Like Diggs is a very solid option. I would be starting Diggs as a wide receiver 3 with a thumbs up. As a wide receiver 2, okay. I think he's been getting in the end zone, right? I would go Henderson here. I would just play Henderson. I don't like playing teammates. So, I would play Henderson and AJ Brown. That's how I would do it. And I know AJ Brown, I know, but I don't really, on a short week, teammates, I'm just not into that AA. Eric E says, hey, Ray, happy to have a chance today. I'm glad. Thanks for joining us, Eric. Appreciate it. I hate when the pesky job gets in the way. Don't we all? Of course we do. My season long is dead. Sutter, Walker, Hubbard, even Jefferson have been massive disappointments. On to DFS, I guess. Dobbins is the cherry on top. Well, Eric, the good news is, as you're aware, we cover DFS every week over at fantasyguru.com. Obviously, we cover wagering over at fantasyguru.com. You can sign up right now over at fantasyguru.com. Anyone can. You can add packages. If you don't have one of the 3 packages and you want to get the other 2, send an email to support@fantasyguru.com. right? If you're somebody watching here and you like the show and you like the guests that we have on and you're intrigued, you can sign up for any one of the three on their own, but it just makes more sense to sign up for all three because of the discount. But it's $99.99 the rest of the way, seasonal DFS wagering. And if you're like Eric and things haven't gone well, and my seasonal leagues have not gone well, I've had injuries all over the place too. That's why it's great that we have DFS and betting, because you can still have fun, Eric. You can still make money. You can still learn some things, apply some new skills. So hopefully that speaks to you. Ethan says, any news on Trey Benson at this point? No. As far as, and again, it's 9:15 on a Thursday. This is why stardom sit-ems, I say all the time, really shouldn't be asked till Friday afternoon. And I know you're not asking one now, Ethan. I haven't seen an update this morning. Again, I'm on the show with you all. I'm not checking the news as we're talking here. But as I scroll through real quickly here, I'm not seeing anything other than the news day to day. So I'm not anticipating at this point Trey Benson to be active and on the football field. That's unfortunate. Garrett Wilson is out, just to put that out there, so everyone should know that. It's officially, he's been ruled out. Ricky Pearsall, going back to the Niners. Ricky Pearsall could play this week. If he practices well, it sounds like, in fact, he's got a high likelihood of playing this week. I don't know if that, again, the Niners said when this injury happened to Pearsall, it was no big deal. He's then missed 6 weeks. So, you know, we'll talk more about Pearsall in a few minutes. Romeo Dobbs, good news. Romeo Dobbs got the chest injury. He's okay. He's going to play this week, according to his head coach. Now, it's a Thursday, and but the expectation at this point is that Romeo Dobbs will be back out on the field for the Packers, which obviously is very good news for their passing attack. Darius Slayton, we talked about earlier, has got the hamstring injury, huge to the outlook of Winston. And obviously Slayton is not a volume guy, never has been. But in this offense, I mean, he could see 8 to 10 targets a week with Jameis Winston, right? So it's really important to get a handle on where he's at. The Giants desperately need him to be able to move the football. Oronde Gadsen, was a lot of concern with Gadsen, right? Gadsen hurt himself last week. There was a lot of panic. I saw everyone's basically picking up second tight ends, and everyone's worried about, is he going to be on the football field or whatever. Quad injury. He practiced yesterday. So, okay. I mean, he's got a legitimate chance to play this week. So this is really good news if you're a Gadsen owner. You may not need that second tight end. We'll obviously follow the storyline here the next couple of days. But Gadsen, who, basically has been catching 5 passes for 55 yards every game kind of stuff. There's been higher games than that, of course. Looks like he's got a very good chance to be active this week for the Chargers. And then finally, Dalton Schultz, he's got a shoulder injury. He didn't practice yesterday. It's a Wednesday practice. He's a veteran. It probably means nothing. As we talked about earlier this week, I think on Monday, or maybe it was on Tuesday when we talked to waiver wire, Dalton Schultz is available in all these leagues. Dalton Schultz is catching 5 passes every game. It's like 5 or 6 games or 6 or 7 games, something like that. He's caught 5. He's not a star. He's only got 1 touchdown. It's not like he's, but he's giving you 9 to 11 points basically every week at the tight end position. And that, based upon the questions I receive, I know a lot of you would really love to have that. So it looks like we're going to have to follow the news there with Schultz, but very likely that he will be active and on the field this week. Again, I'm Ray Flowers of FantasyGuru.com. We're here every day, Monday through Friday at 12 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. We go about an hour here on the show. As you're seeing here, comments, questions, you can leave them throughout the show. We can talk about things, go through things, have some fun. You can talk to each other, all that kind of good stuff. Let's talk some waiver wire. I go through 3 leagues, not so anyone, because no one cares about my leagues. I get that. But I go through 3 leagues just so we can have a starting point to talk about some of these players, right? About some of the things that are going on here in these leagues. Let's start out with the SiriusXM Host League. This is one of the leagues that's not going well for me. I'm 4-6. Lost last week to fall to 4-6. My team's all kinds of beat up in this league. This is a super flex 12-team league. CJ Stroud is my backup, my secondary quarterback. Yeah, that hasn't gone very well. No wonder why I lost last week, right? Doesn't look like he's playing again this week. It's one of those scenarios where, as you can see there, Joe Burrow went for $26. Now, that's out of 100. 12-team league, PPR setup, super flex, $100 to spend. You can add players for $0 as we see. $26 for Burrow is way too much for me. We're hearing that Burrow could return in week 13. That's kind of his goal, his stated goal. They've opened the 21-day window, have the Bengals. It really seems to come down to where is the team standings-wise. If they lose these next couple of games, does Burrow play? So, I mean, he will obviously start over Joe Flacco when he's healthy. It's just, are they going to push him at all this year if they got 4 wins, right? So We'll see. That's aggressive bid for a guy that's out at least 2 more weeks, at least, according to reports. Now, again, maybe he plays before that. I don't know. Probably not, since they're obviously he's not going to play this week. And oh, by the way, just talking about all that kind of stuff, they check the bye weeks. Like I see a lot of people still making trades. There's a bunch of teams next week, 4 teams, week 14, 4 teams still on bye. So make sure when you're making these trades, it's something that makes sense. You're not giving up games. Trey Benson for $5, good addition. Again, he's out this week. We don't have a return date, but I'm all about the $5 spend on Benson. The $4 for Tucker looked much better 24 hours ago after what happened yesterday with the positive report for Bucky Irving that we discussed. Again, it's $4. It's fine. Jameis Winston for 3 is a good price point. If I was more engaged with this league, I probably would have done it myself. I thought about it too. I was going to go $4, so I would have actually got Jameis Winston. Don't love the matchup this week. I don't know if he's going to be the starter for a week 2, 5. We don't know how long he's going to. I didn't anticipate CJ Stroud being out long term. I still don't know if he's going to be out long term, but again, it does not look good for him this week. So, in retrospect, sure, could have gone for it. But yeah, Greg Dortch went for 2. Michael Wilson went for 0. Really interesting. I know a lot of people are in on Wilson, a lot of people in on Dortch. My read of that situation with Marvin Harrison being out with the appendix issue, my read on the situation is I'd go Michael Wilson. And again, I'm a heightist. I'm a sizeist. Michael Wilson, 6'2", 220 pounds. Greg Dortch is 5'7", 170 pounds. I mean, I'm guessing here, but those numbers are probably pretty close. Brissett likes to do things. He's not afraid to stretch the field, right? That's Wilson's forte. Dortch is more of the slot underneath guy in general. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe Wilson still catches 3 passes for 39 yards and, Dortch racks up 9 catches, right? I'd go Wilson. And again, at this price point, we're choosing. They're basically the same. It's not like either one really. In my league that we'll talk about in a few minutes, Wilson's still on the waiver wire. Didn't even get picked up in a 14-team league. So no one's really expecting much, though. Wilson's had moments. He's a big-bodied receiver, and they're going to need him, whether he's the lead guy or not with Harrison out. Ricky Pearsall for 0. Dropped Ayuk. That's me. I made that move in this league. I've had Ayuk the whole time. I don't know why. Probably should have dropped him 3 months ago. Actually, I didn't draft this team. Did I draft this team? I did draft this team. I drafted this team. Okay. I didn't draft a couple of teams because my mom was sick. We've talked about that. I did draft this team. Grabbed Ayuk late. I think he was my 5th receiver. Actually, I remember him being my 5th receiver. We got another report. John Lynch, the GM, said, this was in the last day, the intention is to get Brandon Ayuk back on the field this year. The intention is to get him on the field this year? No idea when that's going to happen for Ayuk. No idea if it's going to happen. Remember, when this injury originally happened, there were some people that thought he'd be ready to go in week 5. Then we heard a lot of week 7. Then we heard a lot of week 10. Well, we're week 11 and we still don't even know. So anyway, I dropped Ayuk, grabbed Pearsall. We talked about him. I don't know if this is going to lead to anything. But Pearsall is the guy that's going to be back first based upon what we're hearing right now. If Pearsall doesn't make it back first, I mean, he could probably not play this week and still make it back first. Like Ayuk guys are going to be week 14. I have no idea when Ayuk is coming back. Niners have bye in week 14. Does that mean he comes back in week 15? You're going to start Ayuk in the first week of the playoffs? No. So rough there. Isaiah Davis for 0, Tyler Lockett for 0. We talked about Lockett earlier in the week, and Isaiah Davis, a good pickup at that price point if something happens to Breece Hall. Obviously, it's better, and as I said over and over, even if you're not a handcuff person, we're at the point of the season now that you should be handcuffing your number 1 assets. Breece Hall is one of your number 1 assets. If you have Breece Hall, Isaiah Davis on the waiver wire, you must add him. You must add him. I spoke in Old English. The Listener League. I don't know if some of you might be in this league. I don't know if the people listening are actually watching. But in this 12-team league, we have $1,000 to spend. Let me run down the I won this week barely. I moved to 6-4. Started really slowly. Started to improve here. In this league, we have 3 flex spots. No kicker, no defense. 3 flex spots. Adonai Mitchell for 110 is super aggressive. The next highest bid was 82, so 2 people really got aggressive. I love it. Get your guy, right? It's late in the season. We've talked about Mitchell. He's basically Alec Pierce, Rashid Shaheed. He's that kind of player. Now, he's working with a Jets offense that's putrid in theory. Okay, he's going to be active this week after being traded last week. He wasn't. In theory, he could be their lead receiver with Garrett Wilson being down with a knee injury, right? Now, that does not mean Adonai Mitchell is going to get 10 targets and catch 8 passes. He's just not that type of receiver. Now, if there's a connection here with Fields or if they go to Tyrod Taylor, I even said this, I think, in the Discord, it might be better for Mitchell to have Taylor. Taylor's probably more adept at the deep ball right now than Fields is. But the bottom line is Mitchell, right now, you can't, you're a kamikaze if you start him this weekend. Like, you can't start him this weekend. But he goes out there and he plays, 70% of the snaps and gets 5 targets, catches 3 of them for 70 yards, So good addition. I'm just surprised the price was so aggressive. But again, 2 bids pretty close to one another. The Sean Tucker at 92, that, is unfortunate. Sometimes we set price points and then news breaks after we set things. Life happens. That, we'll see what that actually happened to me. I'll describe it in a second. I would anticipate if this bidding was run today, 92 would probably be lower because the Bucky Irving returning news. But again, Sean Tucker has done a very good job. And just because Irving is close to back or even coming back doesn't mean he's going to stay healthy. So, good addition. I just think the price point's a little bit high. I dropped Jerome Ford and grabbed Jalen Wright. I spelled it wrong. Just taking a dart throw here. My bench is full of dart throws because this is this league just. I've fought back to get to 6-4. My team has not done very well. My bench is Giddens, Sampson, Tootin, DK, Wright, and Ray Davis. Yeah, exactly. You've all done a very good job of putting your teams together in this league. JJ McCarthy for $7, perfectly fine. 7 for 1,000, fantastic price point. I don't know why it really matters. JJ, you're not starting JJ McCarthy this week, I hope. Lots of turnovers there for JJ McCarthy. A couple minutes away from visiting with Tyler Beaker, so let's run through the information here. CJ Stroud, I won in this $100 Fab Spend League, 14-team FSGA League, the Champions League. Just one quarterback league. As you can see there, I had Fields, who I added. I had Daniels. Daniels got hurt, replaced him with Fields. Fields had a terrible game, had a fantastic game, then went in the toilet. So then I replaced Fields with Stroud. Okay. And then I also added Marcus Mariota. So I'm doing what I don't like doing, which is carrying 2 quarterbacks. Right now, I've got Stroud and Mariota. In theory, Mariota plays this week. Stroud then gets healthy and plays for me next week. That's the plan right now. $6 price point. If I hadn't had life get in the way and things happening yesterday, maybe I lowered that a couple bucks because, again, he's not likely to play this week. But again, I'm looking at him to be my starter. If I have any chance, I'm not even, I don't think, making the playoffs in this league. I think I'm like 4-7, 3-7. What am I in this league? 3-7. Just has not. Everyone, and you can see it here. This is the league where you pick up a player. Yeah, I'm 3-7. This is the league where you pick up a player and the player you pick up gets hurt. That's how it's gone. Yeah, not good. Luther Burden I added for $5. Again, I think Luther Burden, we've talked about him on this show. Jeff Mans has talked about him a lot. He's a rough start this week because at this point in time, we don't know if Moore is going to be out or Olimides is going to lose playing time because of his terrible week last week. But I lost Garrett Wilson in this league. Yeah, I lost Garrett Wilson in this league. So now I'm starting Luther Burden. So welcome to a 14-team league. It's a lot of fun. Joe Burrow went for $2 here, much more respectable price point than the 26% in the other league. Keon Coleman went for $7. Matt Collins went for $5. Tyler Lockett for $3. And then some defensive situations here. Coleman for $7. It's aggressive. Is he any different than Tyler Lockett? Not really. In theory, he's younger and more exciting and in a better offense. All that is true. But production-wise, he hasn't done anything. I mean, I know he scored last time out, but really week 1's the only game he's looked different than what we got from Tyler Lockett last week. So, I'd rather have Coleman than Lockett, but twice the cost, Matt Collins, $5. We talked about Hollins on Monday. With Buecher out again, there's a legitimate chance that, Hollins is heavily involved as part of this pass catching group once again. Because Buecher, who's that deep threat, is not available because of the leg injury. But again, we talked about that earlier in the show. The fact that this game may not be that close. So I don't know how much passing they're going to be doing in the second half. But we'll get into that a little bit more here with Tyler Beaker in a few moments. It is halfway through the show here. Thanks for joining us. Tell a friend, spread the word, all that kind of good stuff. We really appreciate that. Every Thursday, Tyler Beaker of fantasyguru.com joins us. He comes in the show, comes in hot, comes in with data, comes in with information. We talk storylines in the NFL. We also talk about Thursday Night Football, and he often has a betterooski when it comes to Thursday Night Football. So let's bring in Tyler of fantasyguru.com. Tyler Beaker joins us every Thursday at 12:30 Eastern Standard Time. How you doing, Tyler?
Doing good, Ray. Excited to chat some Thursday Night Football, despite it being a kind of gross-looking matchup on the surface. Yeah, it should be a fun one.
It seemed like we were getting some good Thursday night games, and then it kind of Thursday. I don't know. Have you done a study or read a study that really dives into like the effectiveness of teams on Thursdays? Because I think the assumption is these games are kind of bad. And I think a lot of times it could be just the matchup themselves. Have you ever seen a study that says, offense is down 22% on Thursdays compared to Sundays, anything like that?
I have not, but I haven't looked into it because I feel like they've also changed the matchup specifically, like you just alluded to there. In years past, I can always recall Thursday night games being like the Jaguars or Titans, some iteration of these offenses that have just not been the most potent over the last 5 years. We'll say that. So my memory of it is very short-sighted where I think of it in terms of that perspective. This year, I think we're just really hitting a tough spell in terms of some primetime games really letting us down. Hopefully, we turn it around here with the Sunday Night Football and Monday Night Football matchups. I do not have that same optimism for tonight's Thursday Night Football game.
We'll get into that game between the Jets and the Patriots here in a few minutes with Tyler. Before that, let's talk some of the overarching storylines. And I wanted to get your take on a couple of quarterbacks right now. A couple of young quarterbacks who at times have played some really good football. At times, let's start out with Caleb Williams. We all know his fault. You and I have talked about it. He takes too long to throw the football. His processing seems slow. He's running around and trying to make plays. And sometimes it works like it did late in the game last week. Sometimes it doesn't. Has he impressed you this season? Is he a lockdown quarterback one for you right now? Is he matchup based? Like, how do you view Caleb Williams?
He's impressed me in terms of taking steps forward throughout the year. I mean, keep in mind last year he worked through multiple different offensive coordinators, his first one being fired at the midway point. We saw some progress there from weeks 1 through 9 through weeks 10 through 18. I forget the exact split of when they swapped coordinators, but there was a step forward here over the second half. Year 2 for Caleb, we've seen another step forward here with Ben Johnson. Not always the cleanest step forward, and I will say this guy does really well when in structure, and a lot of the first opening 2 drives or so, they've done pretty darn well in terms of being able to produce and be on time and on schedule. It's whenever they get later in the games and we see some ad-libbing, some plays that the first read is taken away, where we get some of the Caleb holding onto the ball a bit too long scenarios where it's just not always going to be great for fantasy angles. This matchup here, I don't think we have that issue at all in terms of week 11. He draws the Vikings, a very blitz-heavy defense in Brian Flores. They are not going to give him the time of day in the pocket. These two teams faced off back in week 1. Caleb had a 60% completion rate, 6.0 yards per attempt. That was the second lowest yards per attempt mark he's had all season. So I think we'll probably be in for a tougher spot here for this matchup where a blitzing defense is certainly going to accelerate that time clock that we've talked about with Caleb.
Tyler, what about Bo Nix? There have been moments this season of There's been moments of the season of elation. There have been fourth quarter comebacks. There's been moments of poor play. Not a great matchup this week against the Chiefs. Where are we at with Bo Nix this week? And are you comfortable with him as your quarterback one the rest of the way?
Yeah, I'm sorry, I didn't really answer the Caleb thing rest away. I do believe he's matchup dependent, but pivoting over to Nix, same answer. I think he's also kind of matchup dependent. Both these guys have the rushing ability to put up some strong floors. They just don't seem to do it on a consistent basis. The scrambling rate is really all we're relying on here, where we don't really have a high schemed rush attempt, kind of designed rush attempt kind of play calling here for either offense. Speaking of Nix specifically, coming off a rough outing, I read a great article from ESPN's Ben Solak this week reminding readers that during the pre-draft process, everybody had Nix as basically a second-round selection that the Broncos took in the first round out of necessity, out of desperation. You can put in whatever word you want to fill there. And to be honest, year 2, I feel like Nix has been very opponent-driven, where he's done well beating up on poor opponents. Against tougher matchups, he's kind of struggled. And now he draws the Chiefs here, a team coming out of their bye week. That's top 5 in defensive success rate. I think we're looking at probably the struggling version of Nix here again. Maybe we get some hero ball. Maybe he runs around against a defense that plays a lot of too high late in the game, but I do think this is probably a iffy matchup. I'd still probably put him top 15, just given that we're looking at a possible shootout. But yeah, there's definitely a floor here with Nick is much more scary than what we saw in 2024.
Tyler Beaker of fantasyguru.com. Let's talk about an offense run by a young quarterback against a team that we just talked about their young quarterback. Let's talk about the Vikings running back, Aaron Jones, facing the Bears this week. We've seen Mason's role be tied directly to Jones, right? When Jones was out, Mason's touching it 15, 16 times. Jones is back, he's touching it 8 times or 6 times. So Mason at this point is just hoping for a goal line touchdown. Where are we at with Jones? Like, you know, the numbers, you watch a game and you see how important he is to the offense. And it seems like he's a low-end running back too, I think, Aaron Jones. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I'd put him in the RB2 bucket. Coming off a season-high rate in both snaps and touches. So I think that was notable, especially in a game against the Ravens where they were trailing for most of that matchup. This game here against the Chicago Bears, much different game where I believe we'll see Aaron Jones really capitalize on this lead role. Like he's made Jordan Mason, a guy that I was starting in multiple leagues, unusable. You can't throw him out there because Jones is still taking the red zone work, the goal line work that we had penciled in for Mason. So we're left with just 6 to 8 touches and you're hoping we get the paint. That's just not a winning formula in my eyes. So we're going to go back to Jones here as a RB2. I like the matchup here. The Bears run defense has really fallen off a cliff. They're definitely a team you can run against pretty easily. So I think in this matchup here, I anticipate a back and forth game script. Spread's probably pretty close. So Jones to me looks like a solid RB2 option.
Tyler Beaker, fantasyguru.com. Woody Marks has had some, again, we're another one of these guys, a youngster who's had some who cares games. A youngster's had some really big games. I think last week, a lot of people look at the box score and he's on the field the whole time. And he's got all these touches and Nick Chubb barely touches the ball. Well, you also have to understand this team was down 17-0 and 20-3. And so Nick Chubb's not going to be on the field when they're down by 3 touchdowns, right? That's not how. So who is Woody Marks? Is he matchup based? Is it, he's a flex option all the time? In a good matchup, he's an RB2. Is it just based upon that matchup? Am I mischaracterizing what you think about Woody Marks? Who is he right now?
Well, I'll be honest. I've really just kind of avoided this Texans backfield because of the offensive line issues. They've been very, very poor in terms of creating yards before contact. ESPN's run block win rate, they've also been bottom dwelling. So neither of these guys have really been on my fantasy radar. I don't really have much equity in either of these guys in terms of start-sit formats. But I answer a ton of questions on our Discord channel where I'm very, very familiar with how these guys operate. Marks, in my eyes, is that matchup-based RB2/RB3. And now he's got a matchup here against the Titans. Once again, the Titans are coming out of their bye week, and they will be once again without Jeffrey Simmons, who isn't practicing. Very, very notable given his on-off splits. Yeah. So I view Marks as probably a back-end RB2 in this matchup where this is the kind of spot where we would see Chubb more involved. Last week with the trailing script, like you mentioned, great spot for Marks as the more athletic, more better pass-catching option. He's got a great receiving profile. But in terms of rushing volume, I do think we're probably going to see that two-headed mix here against the Titans in a game where they are favored by, I think it's 6.5 right now. Probably a spread that could change based on the practice reports of CJ Stroud, who did not practice on Wednesday. If Stroud returns, I think we're looking at a much, much more rosier outlook for these guys in terms of Texans being able to score points. But Mills surprised last week with a pretty darn good performance. So I'm excited to see this matchup in terms of who gets the green light for quarterback, but as far as Marks, I do think he's kind of in that RB2 territory as well.
Yeah, Mills dove in the end zone for the touchdown. He wanted it.
Awesome.
Awesome. Yeah, it was. It was great. Tyler Beaker, fantasyguru.com. I talked earlier about, obviously, one of the bigger storylines in the NFL this week is Jackson Dart not playing, being replaced this week because of the head injury by Jameis Winston. I want to talk to you really about Tyrone Tracy in the backfield, but touch on the offense too. Like, you couldn't really get 2 more different quarterbacks in terms of stylistically or where they're at in their careers than Winston and Dart. You can't just go out and run that same offense. It's not feasible with Winston. We know who Winston is. We know who he isn't. How is he going to do this week? And what are your thoughts on how that impacts Tyrone Tracy in particular?
Yeah, it'll be a big change for this offense. I like to view Jameis as the same kind of style of quarterback that we're seeing with Joe Flacco here in his late 40s, where it drop back and throw it a ton. That's what this guy has been doing these last few years as he's bounced around team to team. And it's been incredibly entertaining. We will probably get some turnovers, but we'll probably get some big plays along the way. That's the thing with Jameis. He's big play hunting. And that really nixes a pass catching back like Tyrone Tracy in terms of his rush volume, because he's not checking it down. He's looking for the 15-yard gain, the 20, 25-yard gain. He's not looking for the swing pass out in the flat. So I think we're going to be looking at probably a lower ceiling performance from Tyrone Tracy in terms of that element. But there could be a chance for more touchdowns. We're also going to see a lot less rushing from the Giants as a whole, because this is a team that was among the league leaders in scramble rate and design run rate with Jackson Dart. Big reason why he's had the 3 to 4 concussions he's had this year is because he's running the ball so often and heavily. That's just not going to happen with Winston under center. So I think we're going to see much more volatile passing, but much more exciting passing. This is a game where they draw the Giants draw the Packers this week. So I'm expecting them to have to throw in that matchup. I think the Giants come out swinging. Was it Monday Night Football they just played? Monday? Yeah. Mm-hmm. Just a very, very conservative game plan from this passing attack from the Packers side, where they just did a lot of short passes trying to make it to third down, and the results were not there. So I think a little internal evaluation leads to them being like, okay, we've got these speedsters on the outside. We're playing a Giants defense that plays a lot of man on a single high. Giants just need to attack vertically, and I think we see the Packers put up a lot of points in that process, forcing the Giants to go into a chasing game script and really make Tyrone Tracy kind of an afterthought, with it really centered around the Winston and company in terms of the passing game.
Wendell Robinson, I mean, a lot of people thinking, hey, man, 12 targets, it doesn't stylistically really seem to fit Winston, but they don't have much of a choice, I guess, right? I mean, especially if Darius Slayton's down with the hamstring injury.
True. We did see that week 2 or week 3 matchup with the Cowboys where they were throwing to Robinson down the field, which was very, very astounding. But that was when Russell Wilson was under center. Mm-hmm. I mean, I could see a change in role, but I still think he's pretty much in that wide receiver 4 conversation.
Tyler Beaker, fantasyguru.com, joins us Thursdays at 12:30 Eastern Standard Time. We'll get to Thursday Night Football here in a few minutes. I wanted to talk to you a little bit about Tampa Bay, because they got a guy who's scoring touchdowns. They got a guy in Tez Johnson who scored 2 of them last week. He's got 4 touchdowns in 4 games. He's got 4 catches or a touchdown in 5 straight games. Like, he's doing things. And people are getting kind of excited here, because obviously Godwin's still who the hell knows, and Mike Evans isn't playing and all that kind of stuff. What do we got in Tez Johnson? Because even though he's having all this success touchdown-wise, he's not a volume guy. He's not a yardage guy. He's just been a guy that seemingly has had some touchdown success. That's not the kind of guy you want to bank on and continuing with. So where is Tez Johnson? Is he a wide receiver 3 that everyone thinks he is? Or do you have some concerns there?
I agree with you. I think there are some concerns here. The volume is just not there, and volume drives everything in fantasy football. We're getting really lucky with the touchdowns. I will say that, especially with a guy that weighs like $150. This guy is super, super small and thin. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers, though, they are a team that are going to continue to have to pass probably deep into this game against the Bills. I think the Bills are going to roll this team. They're coming off a really embarrassing loss to Miami. I think Buffalo is in the mindset of, this is our get right game where we're going to show everybody that was an anomaly and not what we are typically made of. We've seen Buffalo do that a few times. The Atlanta game also comes to mind, where they just kind of disappear for a matchup or so, but then they come back roaring back usually. Roaring back is typically how the Bucs have played, because they are just not showing up in the first half of games. They are bottom dwelling in terms of points per game. Points per drive in the first half of games. And then we see them really flip it on in the second half. So I think that's probably the outcome we're going to see here. You want to attack Buffalo on the ground, but this run attack, Rachaad White, Sean Tucker, maybe we've got Bucky Irving coming back. It looks like he's back at practicing. Mm-hmm. So what are we left with? The 3-headed committee behind a broken offensive line. Right. It just screams like a mess for like DFS purposes. Where I just want to focus on like Buecher, and a guy like Tez Johnson to me is a pure chasing play in my eyes, which is fine. Like, if you want to chase for a ceiling performance in a game that they're going to throw heavily and they're trailing, but just be cognizant that you've gotten really lucky with touchdowns to date. I mean, the 50-yard games are just not there. It's mostly in the 40s and below.
As you can see there on the screen, 3-for-1 right now. The all-in NFL package is available. That includes college football and pro football. It's DFS, betting, and seasonal, all of it, one price. Send an email to support@fantasyguru.com if you got any questions. Tyler just mentioned DFS. He hosts the DFS live stream on Friday nights, where he breaks down the slate from a DFS perspective. He's usually on the Tuesday night live stream, where he's talking seasonal football. He's in Discord answering questions all the time. He's writing articles, game script, this, that. He's very involved over at fantasyguru.com, so don't forget to click that subscribe tab in the top right corner to get involved, to get more of his great information. Let's talk about the Browns. I mean, if there's ever a scenario where I could say to somebody, don't chase points, this is it. Jerry Jeudy hasn't done anything all season. He goes 6 for 78 and a touchdown last week. Let's go. Let's ride. Well, I mean, that production he had last week was like the previous 4 weeks combined. I know the Ravens' numbers are kind of up and down, but they're getting healthy. Their defense looks a lot better. They're creating a ton of turnovers. They're likely to have success offensively, even with Cleveland's good defense. Where are we at with Jerry Jeudy? Should I even have been asking this question, or is the answer, Ray, don't be stupid? No.
If you want to roll the dice, you can roll it. I just don't have anything positive to say. This was a complete anomaly in terms of his season-long production. Feels like Steve Smith Sr. really got the W here on Jeudy in terms of his outlook on this guy, because he's just disappeared this year. I haven't been able to find a reason to write him up in my game script column with any kind of positive notes all season long. In fact, he's been like bottom dwelling in a lot of metrics: yards per outrun, targets per outrun, first downs per outrun. Just any time you can break it down into a per route basis, Jeudy is among the worst. He did have a great game against the Jets' third and fourth string cornerbacks. Great job, Jerry. I'm proud of you. But I just can't get behind this play in terms of anything more than like a wide receiver 4 flex, which we still got bye weeks going on. If you're missing, I don't know, maybe Michael Pittman or Alec Pierce for part of your rotation, and they're both on bye this week, maybe you go to Jeudy out of desperation. But truthfully, this guy's been like a wide receiver 5, wide receiver 6 all season. We just got that one spike week here against the Jets.
Good news. I just saw an update. Parker Washington, who missed practice yesterday with the hamstring injury, was back at practice today. So that's good news, because obviously they desperately need him. Brian Thomas apparently could return too. He's been seen on the practice field. We'll see how things go there. Another player to ask you about before we move on to Thursday Night Football, Tyler. Jameis Williams did nothing the first half of the season. 3 of the last 4 weeks, 4-16 a touchdown. So here we go, right? We know that he could be a very productive player. What should people be looking for with Jameis Williams? Because he's he'll go 80 and a touchdown and then 22 yards. Like it's all over the map. Is there something defensive scheme wise that we should be looking at, matchup wise with him this week in Philadelphia? Obviously not an easy matchup for the Lions, but Jameson Williams has been very productive the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, I mean, these last few weeks, they've also talked about getting him the ball like as part of their game plan, where they felt like they kind of went behind doing that with John Morton calling the plays. They fell behind doing that with John Morton calling plays, where they just weren't getting the ball as much as they had desired. I think a big change was the swap to Dan Campbell calling plays. Eager to see that the rest of the season play out, because we saw everything you want to see from a play caller with Campbell last week against the Commanders. There was play action. There was pre-snap motion. They were getting their big playmakers involved. I'll also note that the Commanders' pass defense is an absolute sieve right now. They are allowing so much production right now. And then you throw in the fact that, like, I think 41 of Jameis' 115, 120 yards he had came on just a simple shallow crosser, where he just let his speed shine on display against a man-heavy defense. I think we're going to see something similar with Jalen Waddle this week in that Madrid game here on Sunday morning. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I think Jameis is really just a strong play season in, or week in and week out. There's just going to be the variability with that type of wideout. He is no longer like that down the field solely field stretcher. He is used more in the intermediate area, which is great for his floor. You really like him against man matchups because nobody can run with 4.2 speed. But yeah, I think we're going to have to pick our spots for when we want to use him. But I think it's very notable that they talked about wanting to get him more involved, and then they showed that by following through with that these last few weeks.
Tyler Beaker, fantasyguru.com. Let's talk some Jets-Patriots football, shall we? Let's get into this. Let's start out with Breece Hall, because, there's a lot of issues with the Jets, a lot of problems. Like Breece Hall last week, it was a couple of plays that really saved his fantasy value, but he got in the end zone, especially with that 40-yard grab that he took into the end zone. He's a top 20 guy every week, right? Like regardless, even in this difficult matchup with the Patriots, or do you have some concerns with Breece Hall this week?
Yeah, I mean, the Patriots are the number one run defense right now. They are giving up the fewest yards per carry, 3.29, the fewest rushing yards per game, 57.5, 2 opposing backs. That's the style that the Jets of offense wants to play. They're 32nd in pass rate over expectation. They want to run the ball. So I think we're likely going to see immovable force against immovable object. I'm probably butchering that phrase, but it's going to be a brick wall here. Brees Wall ran for 83 yards against the Browns last week, another tough run defense, but 30 of those yards came on one single carry. Otherwise, we were looking at a 20 for 53 rushing stat line for 2.65 yards per carry. And the Patriots are super stout against interior runs, which is what makes up a lot of Hall's rushing volume. I will say that for those in fantasy purposes, for those with him in terms of fantasy purposes, the positive is the Patriots are giving up the most receptions to the running back position, the 7th most receiving yards to the position. But we just need them to throw him the ball. He has, over his last 4 outings, 1 catch, 2 catches, 2 catches, 0 catches. So can we bank on prevailing wisdom with Aaron Glenn and utilizing his best weapon in the game where Garrett Wilson is out? I think it's risky. I think that's reflected in his 15.5 yard receiving prop right now.
Mm-hmm.
But I also think that's the kind of play where he showed last week only takes 1 catch for him to clear. So I do like him to show up in here in the receiving game, but the rushing matchup, it's going to be very, very tough for him to break one.
Yeah, and speaking of the pass group, as you noted, Wilson's out. We talked about Nye Mitchell earlier before you joined us. I guess Justin Fields is the quarterback. I don't know if that's officially been announced, but I'm going to assume it's Justin Fields. Can they do is there anything here in the air? I mean, is there, is it Nye Mitchell? Let's hope he gets a 50-yard touchdown. Is it hell no? Is it, because again, looking at this, and again, the Patriots aren't stupid, but why isn't Brees Hall getting 7 targets in this game? But who knows with the Jets, like you said. What's the passing attack going to have to do, or can they do anything tonight against the Patriots?
I don't know if they can. I mean, this team is just with Justin Fields. I played under 180 passing yards for him last week,
right?
And that was sweat free. I think he had 5 yards up until the final 4th quarter.
Yeah.
This week, we aren't even sure if he gets the full 4 quarters. There's a good chance he gets pulled, and it wouldn't shock at all. But if you want heartburn, if you want nausea, introduce Justin Fields into your starting lineup here for fantasy. I will say he has not cleared 40 rushing yards since week 4. He's averaging under 135 passing yards per game over his last 5 outings. He's scored 4 total touchdowns over that span, passing plus rushing combined, 4 total touchdowns in 5 games. We're in week 11. If you're a glutton for punishment, play Justin Fields. But we know without Garrett Wilson that this offense is going nowhere fast. Wilson expected to be out the next 3 to 4 weeks. We've got guys like Arian Smith out there leading the team in routes run. Tyler Johnson, Alan Lazard could come back. They traded for Nye Mitchell. So we've got a lot of confusion there too in terms of receiver rotation, route percentages, snap percentages. You're playing with absolute fire in start-sit formats. There's no need to go this route. We've only got 2 teams on bye. You can find better plays on waivers. The only player you might make a case for is Mason Taylor. We just saw Cade Otton pick up a lot of receptions against this Patriots defense last week. But even Mason Taylor, he had 11 routes run last week. That's not usable. He had 1 catch for 4 yards.
Right.
I think you can go that route in DFS showdown squads, but I would really prefer going anywhere else in start-sit formats. Again, the waivers are rich with replaceable tight ends of this Mason Taylor caliber. I'd rather roll the dice on anybody given that this team's implied for a slate low of 15.5 points. I wouldn't mind taking the under on this team total here at all for the Jets because I don't think they're going to make 15 points here.
Tyler Beaker of FG. Let's go to the other side of things. Drake May's a starter. We know that. He's been one of the breakout stars of the season. What about the receiving core for him tonight? Stephon Diggs is the one. He's been getting in the end zone. Keyshawn Boutte is out with the hamstring injury he's dealing with. We saw Mac Hollins step up. We know Demario Douglas is involved. Kyle Williams had the long score. Talk us through the passing attack tonight. Do you see any edge here or there for the Patriots?
Yeah, the Patriots face a Jets defense that is without safety Andre Sisco. They traded away Sauce Gardner. They're without one of their rookie cornerbacks, Xavier Thomas, out with a concussion. Pardon me. I had a jalapeno pepper right before this.
Oh,
the jalapeno is coming back up.
Eating, okay.
But the Jets play a lot of man-heavy defenses, and they just don't have the horses now to slow down all these weapons. Drake May is the type of QB that does spread the ball around, so none of these guys is getting an elite target share.
Right.
Stephon Diggs at the top is still under 21%, so it's not a fantastic spot there, even for Diggs. But Diggs, matchup-wise, does very, very well against man coverage. A 31% target per out run mark there, 3.14 yards per out run. We've seen him crush against some man-heavy defenses in the past. The problem is, what kind of volume are we looking at for Diggs here? So there's a little bit of a variance there in terms of that. But I mean, we just saw Jerry Jeudy do well against that. If the corpse of Jerry Jeudy can do well, I like Stephon Diggs to do well here. I'm viewing him as a top 25 play. He does really well in isolation. I think he's just set up for a good spot. The Kayshon Boutte injury, I think it's likely going to set up elevated snaps for Mac Hollins again. I know everyone was really eager about Kyle Williams, myself included, but it was Mac Hollins that led the squad with an 83% dropback rate in terms of routes, 58% for Kyle Williams. We also saw Mac go for 100 yards. We saw Kyle Williams with that one catch for 72 yards on that touchdown. Maybe we get some more Kyle Williams as the season progresses and they kind of do like a swap at some juncture, but right now I think it's like a 1A, 1B between those two guys in terms of that X field stretching role. Jamario Douglas, I also think he's very appealing too. Just appealing is like relative here. Like his receiving props probably about 25 yards, and I think he can clear that. But what are we looking for? A 40-yard outing, 4 catches for 40 yards and a touchdown? That's a big day for Demario. But I do think it's very possible here against this Jets defense, given all these injuries to the secondary. They're starting a day 3 rookie safety from Alabama, Malachi Moore, now in the slot. So I maybe you go for Douglas props, but the guys to really focus on here are Diggs, Hollins, and Kyle Williams. I would probably rank them in that order in terms of my preference for like DFS showdown squads.
Reminder, Stevenson's out. Terrell Jennings is beat up. We're not certain what his status is. Obviously, TreVeyon Henderson's the lead guy this week again. Expectations there. Top 20 running back, top 15 running back. What do you think against the Jets?
Yeah, I think I would say so. He's been really tough to rely on, but now that we've got last man standing situation, we're kind of feeling pretty good about it. The Jets are 22nd in EPA per rush. They struggle with yards after contact per attempt and explosive run rate, which both of those are great for a guy like Henderson, which is where he makes his bread and butter, basically. Season high 84% snap share last week after the early Terrell Jennings exit. So if Jennings does not suit up, I really like Henderson quite a bit. I really wouldn't expect anything close to the performance we saw last week. But if he can break one to the outside, he can easily take it to the house. We saw it twice last week. Touchdown runs of 55 and 69 yards. Very, very exciting.
Tyler Beaker, fantasyguru.com. I didn't ask before the show, but you usually have a bet for Thursday Night Football. Again, go to fantasyguru.com, click that subscribe tab in the top right corner, get signed up for the football package right now. DFS, seasonal wagering, all one price. You have a bet today?
I do, yeah. I've got 2 posted over at our Discord channel. I will give you the second one because I like the first one a little bit more. I'm going to tease you guys to try to go over there and play that.
Nice. I like it.
We're going to go with Breece Hall over 15.5 receiving yards. We talked about it. Patriots are an absolute stonewall against the run. It just makes too much sense with Garrett Wilson out for them not to lean on Breece Hall with some screens, swing passes, check downs, get him on a Texas or an angle route. Like, do something. Just get this guy the ball in space. He's way too dynamic, way too great of a pass catcher at the running back position to not get this 15.5 mark. If he fails, I don't know how long Aaron Glenn's going to be staying there.
Agreed. And again, sometimes we break these games down the right way, honestly, folks, and the game goes completely different. And then you look at yourself and you look at the coaching staff and you're like, what happened? Like, the Jets go out and they have, 213 yards of offense and 7 points, and you did everything wrong. Like, so sometimes I agree completely with Tyler in his read of this, and I don't know what Aaron Glenn and that coaching staff is doing half the time. Tyler Beaker, fantasyguru.com. Peg City Dude has a question about 2 veteran wide receivers, 2 guys that are the lead receivers for their teams, 2 guys that get in the end zone, but, DK Metcalf, Stephon Diggs. Is there an obvious answer for you this week? Both these guys have had some nice games, but a lot of other games, it's 8 points in a PPR setup.
Yeah, I mean, I can't talk today. These type of players are the guys that are very volatile in terms of they're not on offenses that have highly concentrated target shares to specific players. Right. So when we're in these types of situations, a lot of it's matchup based, a lot of it's game script based. Both these guys are in opportune spots to produce this week. Yep. I like the matchup for DK Metcalf against the Bengals. I like the matchup here for Diggs against the Jets. I'm going to lean with the Jets here when Diggs tonight as the way I would go. But I think they're really close. If we were to look at projections, they're probably separated by like about 2 points or so. Both these guys look like they're in good spots.
Yeah, Metcalf really should be starting this week for most people, given the matchup. Fantasy Arnold asked a question about Theo Johnson circling back to the Giants. Winston going to throw the ball to the tight end? He's going to have no choice. Johnson had his best game volume-wise last week, and we talked about it earlier. There's not a lot of pass-catching guys out wide there, especially if Slayton's down for the Giants.
Yeah, I mean, the way Winston plays, it's kind of like a rising tide lifts all boats situation. Everybody kind of just goes along for the ride. So in weeks past, we've really been just banking on touchdowns with Theo Johnson and the Jackson Dart connection. Now we've got volume, so I'm much more confident in the Theo Johnson play. I think he's a fine starter here for those that are streaming the position.
Chris D's got a question. He's got Olave is on a bye. Pittman's on a bye. Wilson's out. Woof. The top 3 wide receivers. That's a rough spot to be in. Michael Wilson. I gave some thoughts earlier about Michael Wilson. Michael Wilson or Dortch? Do you have a preference there between the two? And if Wilson's a streamer for you this week, are you okay with that, Tyler?
Yeah, Niners are really soft against the middle of the field. I think it's a good spot for Dortch, but I would probably rather play Michael Wilson just the way that Jacoby Brissett tends to play. He's much more willing to throw deep than what we've seen from Kyler Murray in the first half of the year. Just know Michael Wilson is no stranger to disappearing. Like there are many, many games where he'll go 2 catches for 15 yards, and then other games 4 for 70. So with Marvin Harrison Jr. out, I do think there's a good spot for Wilson in terms of those that are looking to pick up a plug and play off waivers. Just know there's a lot of variability with it.
Scott's got a quarterback question. Drake May, who's playing tonight, or Matthew Stafford. I mean, again, this, in my opinion, I want one quarterback on my team so I don't have to make decisions like this and go bonkers every week. If I had Drake May, you probably picked up Stafford off the waiver wire. He's been fantastic. I mean, he's got 13 touchdowns in 3 games and 24 touchdowns and 2 picks. And he's been fantastic. Has he been good enough to start this week over Drake May, though? What do you think?
That's really tough.
Yeah.
Like, there's a good chance we see May not need to put his foot on the pedal in this matchup. Like, maybe he's got 2 touchdowns, 200 yards, and then he just kind of, all right, Henderson, you take it from here. This is a team, though, that will build their leads in games via explosive pass plays. The Patriots are top 5 in explosive pass play rate. Even with Buecher out, we saw last week, they were still able to get the big plays going with Kyle Williams, Mac Hollins. So I still kind of want to lean on May here. We throw in his rushing element. There's a lot to like here with May, who's the MVP favorite right now, plus 250 odds. What a world we're living in here. If it weren't for May's rushing, I would go with Stafford in the better game environment because that's the game of the week in my eyes. Eagles Lions is also up there, but Seahawks and Rams, that's also going to be a great one. It's a good week for football here, guys.
Laura B's got a question. We didn't mention Hunter Henry's name. I don't think we mentioned Hunter Henry's name. Maybe you did. Yeah. Anything to look at? You didn't mention him, so I'm assuming you're not super excited about the matchup tonight.
No, I mean, if you just look at his game logs, I think it's been like since week 4 that was the last time he's put up a usable stat line.
Yeah,
just the way that Drake May plays, he spreads the ball around too much for any of these guys to be a consistent producer. Maybe we get a sporadic spike week from Henry, but I would just rather go with anybody off waivers instead. I'll be honest.
F1 Weck asked the question that I'm always stupefied by. Which 18-touch running back are we sitting this week? It's like, guys, these guys always start. Judkins and Hall always start. Let me reiterate, always start. Now, maybe you've got Gibbs, maybe you've got Bajan. Okay, there's some scenarios out there where people, but these guys always start. We can only start 2 running backs, and I got Gibbs. Start Judkins at the flex, right? These guys should always be starting. Judkins or Hall, if you had to make the call, again, yes, for me, but if you had to make the call between Judkins and Hall this week, which way would you go?
I mean, neither one looks like great at matchups. The Browns are big dogs against the Ravens here, although the Ravens are pretty soft against the run. I might go Judkins for that specific reason, but oh god, that game's dropped to 39.5. That's wild to me. That's dropped 5 points since opening. I'm just noticing this right now. I guess a lot of people are thinking that we are looking at a low-scoring game there and then an AFC North matchup.
Well, they could also be thinking 28-10 or something, right? I mean,
yeah. I'm with you where both these guys are starters no matter what. I don't know how we're in this situation here. F1, I kind of want to lean Brees, but just because of the pass catching element, like we know targets are worth like 2.7x the value of carries. Let's just hope we get some pass catching work for Brees here.
He is Tyler Beaker of fantasyguru.com, joins us every week on Thursdays at 12:30 Eastern Standard Time. He takes some questions at the end of the show after we break down some Thursday Night Football, talk some storylines. I mentioned it earlier, Tyler, you got a lot of things going on. Your game script article, you've got the live stream tomorrow night for DFS. Who's the guest for you tomorrow night?
We will be having on our guy, DFS Marlin, Mark Hogan. He will be joining us on Friday evening. That's at 7 p.m. Eastern. We will be walking the whole slate, going position by position. Other content I've got today, I am posting my DFS wide receiver coach article where I go looking at different wideouts at different price points for you guys to utilize in your DFS rosters this week. And then Saturday will be my game script article coming out, going game by game, looking at pace of play, matchup previews, play calling tendencies, and which players stand to benefit the most.
He's Tyler Buecher again, every Thursday, 12:30 Eastern Standard Time, right here on the show. Sign up at fantasyguru.com. Click the subscribe tab in the top right corner. You don't want to miss out on the rest of Tyler's analysis. Trust me, it is good stuff. Tyler, as always, thank you for joining us today. We appreciate it. We'll talk to you a week from now. Have a great week 11.
Good luck, everyone.
He's Tyler Buecher. I'm Ray Flowers. We'll be back here tomorrow at 12 o'clock Eastern Standard Time for Fantasy Sports Daily, powered by fantasyguru.com.